It's Thursday, November the 4th, 2021 at 3:39 p.m. here locally in Southern Oregon. This is TheOneHiraethProject's DiaryCast number 12, entitled The Magic in Nature. Now, if you go to the 1HP's Facebook or Twitter account, you'll see that I posted a short video with the same name, Magic in Nature. And I felt it was appropriate because the magic continues. There isn't a single story that stands out this week because there was this ever flow of one experience after another into the next on a daily basis where magic was happening, and I feel that it was all organic in nature, of energy, of frequency. So what I decided to do, instead of either highlighting a single one of those stories or telling them all, even in pieces, was to share an experience that I had in a conversation with what became my next homeowner in Seattle. I'm going to do a house sit starting in mid-December that will take me through the end of January. And it too was a synchronicity beyond the norm. And in sharing that one, I think that I will be able to offer you, the audience, the visitors, an idea of the everything that was happening this week by that one story. The young woman for whom I'm going to be house sitting is a professional. She's a creative. She's a techie. All of those things are what I was at her age. She said she was 27. At 27, I moved to New York City. At 27, earlier this year in May, she moved to Seattle from North Carolina for the first time, away from, family and friends. She lives in a community in this downtown area of Seattle that is filled with other creatives about her age, she said. Most of them are really quiet because they're nerdy. And she's so cute. So, she's that typical cute nerd. So I can imagine all of her neighbors and friends and acquaintances in the area are all similar. She said that they often gather at this coffee shop or that coffee shop or, this open forum location and just open their computers and work all day. Her views are spectacular in this studio apartment. And it's a nicely organized and studio apartment with lots of square footage because it's more like a loft space that you might find in, like, say, Soho area of Manhattan in New York City, where you have such a large canvas of space to begin with. You create different rooms just by the way in which you organize the furniture. She also has a quarter or a third length wall, like a half wall but shorter, that separates where her bed is. So it's hidden, but it's still in that same open space. It's just got this nice little quarter wall there. And I was enamored by her experience. She reminded me of a young me in a lot of ways. So let's just leave it there. Then somehow we got on the topic of, I know what it was. She said that because I said I was spiritual, she figured that I might just be able to have that. She got the feeling I, could talk to animals or animals could understand me. And it was such a bizarre thing to say. And I'm not one of those animal whisperer types, but I do have the ability, as everyone does, I just nurture it, the ability to connect directly with animals. I can get a sense of, even if they look angry, I can tell by looking in their eyes if there's something else, if it gives the appearance of one feeling or state of being when in fact it's, that's just a cover for something else. Or it's just their physicality gives that appearance, but if you look deep into their face, you can tell that's not what's going on at all. And I'll give you another example why, of that happened this week as well. But based on that comment, I chuckled and said, well, I'm not an animal whisperer, but I do have, my ways. And she said, well, my cat likes to play, and here's some of the things that they do. How would you handle that? And I said, well, I'll be honest with you. Every animal has its own personality, and every animal has its own pleasure points and ways of existing in this world. And if you pay attention to them, you can figure out what they like and what they don't like. And I just go with the flow. I follow their lead, and they'll let me know what they like and don't like. And then I will just, follow that path along the way. And sometimes it takes a few days because, a new person in an animal's life, they have to try and figure out, how do I navigate this? And she liked that answer. And that led to her talking about other things that are a little more esoteric. And so she got onto something about crystals and saying, well, I have a couple of, crystal, what did she call them? I know they've got a name, like where you create a little area where you meditate or focus to bring you to a certain type of energy. Altars. She said she has a few crystal altars in her place, and she was thinking she was going to have to take them down. And I said, oh, no, please, unless you want to, please leave them. I would love the opportunity to experience what energy you relate to, because at those altars create a certain, again, way of being, frequency, energy, state of mind, and I would love to sit in that and see if I can, relate to it as well. And she was really excited about that. And I said, as a matter of fact, I have a box that I take with me everywhere I travel, and it's filled with crystals. And I'll tell you, the visitor here, that I've had many other crystals and stones besides the ones I carry with me. I usually leave them with Airbnb homeowners, house-sitting homeowners. I'll box things up and send them to a friend. For example, there is a popular YouTube reader that I've gotten to know quite well, and we speak probably at least once a week, either email or some other means. And I sent him a huge box filled with tarot cards, oracle cards, Sibilas, it's another type of card, and a few of my crystals. And I did that because I knew I was at my last location in southern Arizona for 5 months, and I felt I would have the opportunity to order a few things and then see which ones resonated with me and keep them, do something with them when I was done. I could always decide later because, I can only carry so many things since I've been traveling for years now, and I have 2 regular size suitcases. So I sent them to him, a huge box filled with stuff. And I loved that because then once he received them, not only was it a fun gift to get, it did me a great favor. So it was a mutually beneficial thing. He felt like he got this huge gift of, cards filled with my energy and whatever energies I've been picking up as I've been traveling around. And the same with the crystals. So they come and they go, and there are a few that I keep as staples. As well, there are some rocks that I carry around with me for a while. And so many of my crystals and rocks that I share with others have gone on part of my journey with me. And therefore, they have with them the energy of whatever location that I have been in those times. And I love that as well because I feel like there are certain times where I'll give you an example. There was a beautiful stone that had crystal elements to it that I just picked up along the roadway. It was as big as the palm of my hand, long and narrow, and almost like a bookend if you would stand it upright, but it laid flat. And it had beautiful rose and clear, what looked like quartz, and it had blues and grays, but yet it was just a stone. It just had these elements within this particular stone that were crystal-like, or they were crystalline in nature. And that was in the summer of 2020. So that stone is the one stone that was not native from this last Airbnb stay that I had been carrying with me, that I left there for this particular, homeowner, host of this Airbnb. Because it just felt right. It was time for it to find a home. And I really enjoyed the energy of this young 30-year-old entrepreneur starting off, who'd been working hard for about a decade, had been in the service, now worked for a large corporation, making great money and saving it all for his future because he wants to retire young. And he bought this property and some other things. And yet when I met him, I really felt kindred to where his journey was going. I found a lot of young people in there up to about 30 years old. Not all, because my own son is 32 and he's not like this at all. But they have this different sense of expression. It is more creative. It is more open, more spiritual, more willing to look beyond what is the norms of reality, the conditioning, and see the beauty, see the energy, the frequency, the magic that awaits them there. So anyway, after having this conversation with her, we went from crystals to other things, and we hit it off really well. It was almost as if I felt like she could be a daughter type for me because of her age, because of the similarities we had in personality. In her long-term goals are the life that I've just led and our common interests. So that conversation went so well that she offered me the job right there on the spot, even though she had a handful of other people interested. And that is where I've now accepted it, and I'm on my way there in December. In the meantime, I will be here in the magical, natural world of Oregon, where it's still raining a lot. But another thing I was able to do this week was get out on a couple of different occasions where the sun was out long enough for me to actually go on fairly decent walks. One of those walks was straight up a mountain road, and it was, I'm skipping on that, professional road. It was paved, and it wasn't just a dirt road or an old country road. It was a legitimate road, but it went straight up. It reminded me of the mountain road in Missoula, Montana, that was about 1.5 to 2 miles to the top, and when you got to the top, you could see the whole countryside. This is the same, and I haven't made it to the top. It's 2.5 to 3 miles to the top, and you need a lot of stamina because this one is really steep. So I'm walking up this mountain road, amazing komorebi coming through the trees constantly. Komorebi in the brook that is running downhill next to the roadside in the gully. Beautiful, clean water too. But the sparkling is just stunning. That is the video that I put on the social platforms that's called The Magick in Nature. You should check it out. And when I was on this walk, I was filming that bit that I have on social media, and I was in a crouched position. And when I stood back up, I actually held my phone up above my head because there was so much sun. I was trying to see the face of it. And when I did that, there was this huge, and when I say huge, I mean huge bull right there above my head. The way that the ground around this road exists, it is higher than the road itself. It's almost like the road was cut into the side of the mountain in spots. So this cow was above my head, and I'm 5'3" on a windy day when my hair gets blown up in the back a little bit. So it was above my head, probably another half a foot. And that's where its ground began. And then there was this barbed wire fence, but it wasn't thick. I mean, that cow or that bull, I'm sure, could have stuck his head through there if he could have figured out how to turn it and, find those spots, because the barb in the barbed wire it was probably 6 inches. Each one was 6 to 10 inches apart. They weren't right next to each other. But I was caught off guard, and it was huge. A friend of mine who owns a dairy farm in Indiana told me when I sent her the photo and asked her, what the hell is this giant beast? She said that there are certain kinds of bulls, and she gave me the name, that can be 1,800 to 2,400 pounds. And it was all black. But it was right there. Its head was as big as my entire torso. And it was locked on my eyes. Its face was as close as it could get to the barbed wire without touching it. And it was looking right at me with this huge face and this huge body above me, looking down at me. It was so majestic. Yet, if I had not grown up around cows, I would have probably been frightened. I can tell you that I was caught off guard, and because of its presence, its majestic presence, I went, whoa, like that. I went, oh my God, you scared me, to the bull. I thought, I need to soothe this bull so that it doesn't think that there's anything to worry about, that I'm not a threat or anything. So I started to sing to it. And it never changed its expression the whole time, but I felt it was docile. I wasn't afraid of it. I just knew that I couldn't walk away quickly or run away or, in a nonchalant kind of way. I needed to take it slow, which I did. So the whole experience lasted a good 5 minutes, maybe longer. But because I had this conversation with it, was singing to it, kept that locked eye-to-eye thing going, because I really wanted to look deep into its soul, because I felt it was looking into mine. And it was an amazing connection. That's how I felt when I was talking about, not really being an animal whisperer, but yet being able to look right at their face and be able to tell what's cooking behind the eyes. That's what this was like. And that's not uncommon. It's not uncommon for animals just to walk up to me. But this was a big surprise, I gotta tell you. I was not expecting that at all. But just part of the magic. Now, what else has happened this week, as I wrap this up, is that I have had a lot of sounds and visuals come into my experience. The sounds are coming from outside this place where I am. And they're not coming from people, but they are voices. And the reason I know they're not coming from people is because this place where I am is so secluded, and there are certain times when the entire building, except for my unit, is empty. It seems like people come and stay a night or two and then leave, mostly on the weekends. And there's nothing else around here except a church across the street, and you can see clearly if there are people there or not, because there are either cars in the lot or there are no cars in the lot. So when I hear voices coming from the huge forest that is just beyond the extremely large and spacious grassy backyard area, I know that it's not a real human, but yet they are human-like voices. I hear whispers and words, usually one voice at a time. And it's not like I hear them for long periods of time. I just hear this wisp of sound or of words passing by. I've heard light singing. Even the refrigerator was making a really interesting sound the other day, and it doesn't usually make any noise, but all of a sudden it kind of was singing, or playing notes. It was really strange. But I just take it, I don't fester on it. I don't spend a lot of time wondering, what is it? What's the message? I'm just enjoying the experience of it, accepting it for what it is. And then I keep seeing flashes of images, and they're profound at times. They're faces, bodies, shadows walking by, things that get my attention. And some of them I've been able to explain away. Like I saw this one shadow, but I thought it was a white shadow, just drop right in front of the window in front of me. But when I looked out, there was nothing there. And I assumed that could easily be one of the large crows that fly around here. And they're huge. They're raven size, but they're crows. And I know that I saw white, but the crows are black, and what I assumed was that it was just as it was passing in that dark capacity, it was the lightness around it that is what I noticed. But I am not able to explain them all away, including one that I talk about in a recording that I have also on the social media platform. Let's see what it's called here. It's on our SoundCloud account, and that one's called Connecting with the Essence of Nature. I had a experience with that YouTube tarot reader I was talking about. We're both reading the same book right now. And I noticed a sigil message in the title. So I wanted to share it with him because he's also a psychic and, is connected intuitively to the world. So we have that in common. And I wanted him to see what I was seeing. But what I realized later, after I sent him the email and the short little audio of what I was experiencing, I looked at the book cover and I noticed there was a face on it. And it's because I can see this prevalent eye. And I thought that it was the actual book cover. So I looked at the book cover, the physical one that I have, and I didn't see it. It's dark in that area and blue, kind of a midnight blue to a black, and not a lot of definition at all. But I had photoshopped it and used what's called the leveling tool, and it did lighten up some of the darker areas. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I just brought forward something that's actually existing in the image, but that you can't see in the actual book cover because it's darker. It's not leveled. But I looked at it closely, and I could see that it does not exist in that cover. So I Googled it and found the image online and looked at those versions of the image. And not only do they not have that, partial face on them with that prevalent eye, they also don't have it in the background either. In other words, it exists in the photo, but only when you level it does it come forward, does it come out from the darkness. The eye is not there. That's what I use. The eye is not in any of these photos or the original book cover itself as it exists in this apartment here in the book form. So that was fascinating to me that there's a face on there. So I caught this overlay in my camera when I took a picture of this book cover, and I can feel a flow of presence here. It's not dark or weird or uncomfortable. It's not heavy or light. It's just a knowing that I'm not alone here. But it doesn't feel like it's a human per se. It feels like it's the essence of nature, as I said in that SoundCloud title. And so this week has been miraculously wondrous in its synchronistic offerings, furthering last week's 1HP DiaryCast. And I'm sure this topic will continue for the duration of my stay here, because everywhere I turn, it is this unearthly kind of imaginal sparkle of nature that is showing itself to me over and over in a numerous and infinite number of ways in this more cocooned type of environment where I am, where I don't really have much of a choice but to notice it, because I can't take my mind away through walking or, activities in and around the area because of the restrictions based on the weather. So for this week, I will leave it there.